You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 9. In this episode, we are chatting with Ankur Nagpal of Teachable, and we're talking all about what makes a successful online course, how to measure your very own success metrics, and all the behind-the-scenes data that Ankur gets to look at as the founder of Teachable. Hey guys, this is Mariah.
And I'm Megan Minns, and we are so excited for you to hear this interview with Ankur. He is sharing some amazing insights, especially since he gets to see it all from behind the scenes, as well as just his own personal experience, what he's struggling with, predictions, which I really like. So we can't wait, and let's dig in.
Hey Ankur, we are excited to have you here on the Femtrepreneur Show. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
I'm excited too, Mariah and Megan. Looking forward.
Thanks. So we're going to ask you a million questions today because you have the sort of behind the scenes access to tons to everything in the world, to tons of course creators, and kind of you get to see what's working and what's not on a really real level because you run Teachable. And for those of you who are listening who don't know what Teachable is, it is the platform that Megan and I use to host and sell all of our courses, and it's the platform that thousands of our students are using as well, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do with Teachable, and then after we're going to kind of like rewind and see how you got here.
Sweet. Cool. Yeah. So my name is Ankur Nagpal. I'm the founder of Teachable. Believe it or not, this company was now founded over 2 years ago, which feels just, weird to say.
Does it feel like a long time? Because that to me feels like
forever.
Really new.
No, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
No, so I was a course creator myself, probably not a very good one, but I had a couple of courses on Udemy at the time, which some of you might know is a marketplace for courses. And it was really interesting, right? I had a course on Udemy. I saw the potential that online courses had, the fact that it allowed me to, do whatever I wanted. I saw the fact that, I bet on courses being really big in the future. But at the same time, I felt very limited as a course creator on Udemy because I spent all this time building a course, uploading it, but I never even got a student's email address. I had no control over pricing. I couldn't really build a business with it. So that's what led me and my partner at the time, Conrad. He decided to focus on content, and I decided to build a really, really, really basic platform, which at the time was, it just allowed you to upload videos and had payment processing. And that was effectively what would grow up to become Teachable. At the time, was just one person, 2 courses. But we soon, every couple of weeks, we had someone asking us like, hey, that looks cool. Can I use it? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what eventually grew into Teachable many, many months later. We were called Fedora at the time, then we rebranded, and now we've been Teachable for almost a year.
What were your courses back then?
So my courses were the first one was called, I think, Hack the App Store, How to Climb in Mobile App Rankings. Because in the past, a lot of the work I'd done was, building Facebook apps and mobile apps and stuff. So Conrad used to like to use the word growth hacking, which I personally hate. But, I had a lot of SEO.
What a douchey term.
Yeah, right. So the word grow hack might have been there somewhere. I remember that was something we argued over. But yeah, it was just like, if you have a mobile app, how do you actually rise to the rankings? If you have a Facebook app, how do you promote it? So marketing stuff, but slightly more technical marketing.
Yeah, interesting. Yep. So why did you start Teachable? Like what was available to you at the time? What did the online course software market look like when you started Teachable?
Yep. So 2 things, right? One, I want to make it clear because there's this fallacy going around that, whenever companies are started, it's started by a grand vision to build something amazing, whatever.
Right.
Now, this was like a side project. This is something I first built for myself, and then another person, and it kind of organically became something bigger than it is. So it was never driven by a single grand vision to build this, massive thing. But at the time, as a course creator, my options to sell something on my site were either WordPress, which I'm technical and I still find it hard to use, it's really, really painful setup. You need to have all these different plugins, make them all work together. Or the alternative at the time was, just deal with Udemy, deal with the marketplace, and deal with, I could go to another marketplace like Skillshare, but deal with the fact that I was building my business on someone else's platform. Mm-hmm. So those were the 2 options. Neither of them were very good. And then I thought briefly, maybe I should build a WordPress plugin that did what I wanted to, but you can't, we looked into that and it's just like, we need a fresh start. We need to start from nothing, even though it might lead to a minimal feature set. And that's what led to, building was Fedora at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Megan is really proficient in WordPress. Like Megan will say, like, she used to design.
I thought you're a Squarespace kind of girl, Megan.
Oh, I am now, but I started making websites when I was in middle school. So, Squarespace wasn't around.
Yeah.
But so I definitely learned how to build. I used to offer it as a service. The first day my business was alive, I was offering, from the ground up WordPress design. So it's like you can use it.
Isn't that the
but
problem though? That just the fact that you need a service, people need to hire you to, build it.
Yeah, I think exactly what you said about just all the complications that go into it with different plugins, and it's a mess. So so now I'm a huge Squarespace advocate.
Nice.
Yeah, we had tried, a little bit of background of why we started using Teachable. We were at the point in our business and I just brought Megan on because I was really overwhelmed. Our femtrepreneur business had grown so fast, so big, so fast. We had all of a sudden hundreds and then thousands of students. And I realized that the way we were doing things originally by my design was just emails and I didn't really have a course platform at all.
Yep.
I had created and sold 5 different courses and I never had a course platform. I was either using a 1 password protected page on Squarespace or sending out emails of a program that costs $500, which is ridiculous.
Do you remember what the password was? In case I can.
I don't remember. I'm sure.
I think the page is disabled.
Yeah. And I'm sure they were really bad. It was probably the name of the course.
Mariah 1 2 3.
Yeah.
And we were just growing so fast, and I was and it got to the point where I was if any more people buy our courses, I'm not going to be able, we're not going to be able to handle it. And it was almost if we didn't switch to Teachable, we were going to have to stop making sales because we were getting so many new students all the time, which is a wonderful problem to have, but also kind of stressful when you don't have the infrastructure or an easy platform to use. And
especially for something considered to be passive income, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was we're doing so many things manually. We're hooking things up to get we're hacking together, daisy chaining these crazy different things that aren't meant to go together. We have 100 zaps set up. It's just terrible. And that was really what allowed us to kind of scale our business, past 7 figures now is the being able to have a platform that works whether you have 50 students or 5,000 students.
Yep.
And so, thanks for building it because it's worked out great for me.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I think one of the things that you talk about that a lot of our creators say is, I pay Teachable or I use Teachable, whatever, so I don't have to deal with stuff. So I don't have to think about it. The fact that this works is because I don't have to spend time worrying about it. I don't have to think about what might go wrong on launch day and so forth. Yeah,
and we had originally tried certain WordPress plugins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier.
Yeah, very unsuccessfully. They were really hard. And it got to the point where Megan came to me and was look, you can either pay me all this money for my hourly rate to install this plugin and customize it for you and make sure it works on WordPress and all this stuff. But she was this other platform, Teachable, would be cheaper than you paying me to customize this plugin.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it was like I've already established, I am familiar with WordPress, or at least back then I felt maybe now I've lost my skills with WordPress, but back then
it hasn't changed in 10 years. I think it'll be fine.
Okay, I was really good at the time, and I was so surprised by how much I was struggling with customizing, and especially because some of the platforms we were testing were advertised as so easy to customize and so I was thinking it would be such a quick job, and instead it was oh my gosh, I'm going to have to create a custom line of code for literally every button on this entire thing. Or, it was just complicated. Yep. I'm glad we didn't go that route, Mariah.
I'm glad too. I'm really glad. Teachable to me is something that works whether you're just starting out and you're brand new. And this is Megan and I's thing is the beginner friendly and empire equipped. And it's something that we have students who have never built a website. They've never been online before. They're very newbies, and they're able to set up their Teachable accounts within an hour and have their course up and ready to go. And us running a multiple 7-figure course business are also using that same platform. And it's like, it works for both, whether you have a huge business or you're brand new.
Yep. And the good thing is, because we're doing things at scale, we can also afford to get things a lot cheaper, right? Like right now on Wistia, we have over 1 million videos and we do about 175 terabytes of video bandwidth a month.
Crazy.
What that means is we can give free video streaming to everyone, which would otherwise, for a lot of people, they would end up paying Wistia more than what they would pay us just by that.
That was what I was doing. Like, honestly, at the time, I was embedding like Wistia videos into my Squarespace page with one password on it. And it was like, I was paying, I think, up to $200 a month. And I was like, wow, I can't believe, this is so stupid. What kind of advice do you have? I want to ask you, because you have pretty much, because you kind of see the behind the scenes of all of these courses, I'm going to ask you a couple questions of like, what makes a course successful, or, an educator, an online educator successful? What advice do you have people on the marketing side of launching their first ever course? And keeping in mind that a lot of our listeners are launching for the
Just listen to every word Mariah says.
I mean, that too. But thinking like, a lot of people have been asking us, especially lately, what is the sort of like simplified launch for a first launch? Because the launches that we do now are obviously much more advanced than something you'd start out with. What's a kind of like good like first launch marketing plan outline?
So let's start with what not to do, right? The biggest thing not to do, and this is going to sound stupid and facetious, but it's the first thing, and this is where a lot of people stumble, is they don't actually do it. So let's eliminate the biggest reason is, the biggest reason most people fail is they don't even get to doing this launch, right? They want to do it, they plan it, they spend all their time planning, but nothing ever actually happens. So let's eliminate that first. Let's assume you actually go ahead and do launch. It's really, the most simple thing is really like, it's like selling anything, any product, anything on the internet. You give away something for free, you get an email address, you deliver value to people, and when you have something to sell, they will buy. We can go into more detail, and there's a lot of, strategies and how you build your email list and how do you market and all of that stuff. But really the fundamentals are deliver value for free, build trust, and then, ask your people, ask your audience what they're struggling with, and then help them, help solve their problems, help take them to whatever it is the outcome they have in their mind.
So do you recommend that people start with a free sort of very miniature Teachable course, like on Teachable, and then get feedback on that, see what questions they get, and then kind of use that to flesh out like a big course?
Yep. Specifically, obviously I'd love if it's a Teachable course. You can even go more minimal if you'd like and have an ebook, do a live workshop, do some kind of, minimal product. And it could be, as I said, a PDF. It can be very small. A lot of people do use the Teachable course because it means you don't have to do another thing. But whatever it is, start with that, collect email addresses as you distribute that, talk to people, find out what worked, what didn't work. And then when you're ready to kind of have an offering, one, see if you can pre-sell it, see if any of those people that have actually gone through that are willing to buy. If so, great. If not, revisit why they're not buying, revise the concept until, they are ready to pre-sale, and then actually go ahead and build it out. The other advantage of pre-selling is a lot of times, a lot of people get stuck at the building stage, but if you've pre-sold it, you have the obligation that I need to get this done, that you actually will get this done.
That's the only way I've been able to create any courses is because I pre-sold, and there were people who had paid me a lot of money to waiting on me. Otherwise, I never ever would have actually gotten it done.
Any kind of pre-commitment is good. So for a lot of people, the pre-commitment might be having a launch webinar with a partner where you're like, well, shit, I have this launch webinar to do, so I got to do like having some kind of pre-commitment is so vital, because a lot of times we're our own worst enemy. It's so easy to procrastinate, put stuff off, and as long as we have some deadline, something to work towards, which is another thing, deadlines, right? Like a lot of times I would recommend picking a deadline and doing the best you can before that date versus waiting for your course to be perfect before you release it.
Yeah, super dangerous to be like, oh, I'll make the course first and then I'll set a deadline. Not only because it won't get done, but because I really, truly think that it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to make a course and then decide that you're going to market it after. And we have seen people do that, and that's when you fail, is that you build a course in a vacuum and then you decide okay, now I'm going to switch to promotion mode, and it's no buys, or you didn't have your messaging on point, and like it's oh my gosh, what a
and that works. But if that works, it's because you got lucky. Like if that works,
because you got lucky. It's because you already have an existing successful business and that you can already you can afford to do that. You already have done market research with your email list. Like people who if I was going to do that, it would be because I have a proven track record, but not because like if I was starting with the first course, first idea. Please do not make the content before you start selling it. One of the things that we like about having the free courses on Teachable is that you do get the email addresses, but it's great because people are making their Teachable account on your school already, and so they already like have that step completed when it's time to buy. And then the other thing is getting familiar with what it looks like on the inside. And so we found that when we do like preview courses or when we allow people to take a free course like inside Teachable, they are like, wow, this is super high quality, and this is kind of I can see that this is going to be laid out well and organized well for when I actually buy the paid program instead of, you can't try before you buy online, and that can be kind of a huge barrier. So.
The other thing, I don't know if you've tried it, but I would recommend trying, and I've seen other people do it, is releasing a first quick Teachable course. It can be like even like $5 or like $9 or whatever.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, except the added benefit is your credit card is saved. So when they have the big program, it's a single click to buy.
Yes.
So
absolutely. Yep. Like a little tripwire just to get people into your kind of system.
It's just a system, you train them to buy, and payment processing for the second time is going to be so much easier because their information is already there.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that. One way to do that and not have to create a small paid course is just having the free version be dripped out, and then being like, if you want all of this at once, pay like it's a nominal fee. It's like $10, pay once, and then you get the version that's like all access instantly instead of having it dripped out over 4 weeks or something. So people will pay to just like get it right away. Especially when it's just like you said, it's just like $5 or $10. Oh, that's like a good little tip there. So with all these course creators that you have access to and that you see what they're doing every single day, what do you feel like are the sort of common characteristics of the most successful course creators that you see? Like, what do they all have in common? Like maybe like 2 or 3 things that you notice.
One of the things, and again, I'll get to what they have in common, but I just want to make clear, because a lot of people worry about this, is what they don't have in common is topic of choice. It's like we have the data. It's absurd to see people, making money selling courses on such incredibly specific topics that I would think, and I know you've talked a lot about this, you're not surprised at all by this, but a lot of people still are. A lot of people think, oh, you can only make money with courses in programming, marketing, design, or wow, are all the people in courses selling courses on creating courses?
Yeah. What it feels like this year.
So no, there's people making money selling all kinds of courses. We have people teaching painting. We had someone recently create a course on intermediate blacksmithing and make a bunch of money.
That's awesome.
So the topic doesn't matter. What of kind of bringing together the people that, looking at what's common with people that are successful. One is, I'm trying to find the way of quantifying this into a single attribute, but they're the kind of people where if they read a little bit of advice or whatever, they will implement it to, like, they're doers. Give them all the advice in the world, but nothing really happens. And there's other people, and maybe you've met some of them in your mastermind, where you give them a little bit, right? A little nugget of information, and they will take that so far and do so much with it. So they have kind of this quality of having a bias towards action almost, where, whatever it is, they will get it done. And if not, they will try, and, if they fail, that's fine, but they will move forward and actually get it done.
That's really interesting. Actually, I had dinner last night with someone who's in my mastermind, the Course Coven.
Nice.
And she lives across the world in Australia. So she hadn't been able to come to a lot of our mastermind meetups and a lot of our calls. But I had like one call with her where I gave her one little tip about emails to send during her launch. I told her like one little thing to tweak, and she took it and she ran with it. And then she got back to me a couple weeks later, and she was like, that tweak that you told me to do doubled my launch and 5x'd the investment she had made in this like super high level mastermind.
Nice.
And she was telling me last night, she's like, I I know that I didn't get to come to every single call, but every little tidbit that you told me, I implemented it, and it ended up like giving her, double her previous largest launch.
Wow.
So
that's
it's like you said, there's people who are like wired like that.
Yep.
And I think that is such a huge advantage, and something Megan and I talk about a lot is, if you feel like things aren't happening for you, or you feel like you're not getting the success, or you feel like you're working hard, but like checking in and being like, am I really? Like, am I really taking action, or am I just sitting here planning and reading blog posts and thinking about it?
Yep. And a lot of people, and working hard isn't necessarily important if you're not doing the right things. A lot of people, like, when they're working, their work has a lot of activity. Like they might be putting in the hours. It might be like actually, creating the activity of work, but not really the output. And funnily enough, that's another attribute I think a lot of successful course creators have in common is not being perfectionists. Like letting some of the small shit just be the way it is versus overly, stressing about it. And again, for the same thing of getting it done. Like, people don't realize your course only becomes better when you have actual students going through it and you're talking to them. Your course, you hit point of diminishing returns pretty fast if you just keep re-recording the slides because you said or ah too many times, right? You've got to let the small stuff like that go. That
is so awesome. Like, the most successful course creators are not perfectionists. Like, that right there is just a golden nugget.
Tweet that stuff, guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, because there are so many people who I think have this like weird, like kind of like pride of like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. So like, I haven't, I'm waiting, or oh, I'm such a perfectionist. And it's like, man, you're just the only person you're, robbing of this opportunity. You're just cheating yourself because have some weird pride about being a perfectionist.
Yeah, like, it does not.
No one cares.
Does not matter. The third thing, and again, I don't know if this is necessarily causative or it's just correlated, but I've seen people do it, that successful people do, and I don't know if they do this and that's why they're successful, or they're successful and that's why. Like, I don't know which way the correlation works, but most people I see, as they keep launching courses, they start selling courses at higher and higher price points. Focused sometimes towards more specific audiences. So a lot of times people start off kind of broad, and they start off with $49 course, $99 course, and then slowly start moving up, where 12 months later they're selling a course at $499 or $999 or something like that.
I think for us it took us too long. I wish I had gone through that cycle of increasing my prices faster. It took us far too long to launch our premium $1,000 course, and everything works out in the end. But by the time we did, it was just a mental block for me. It was just 100% like, is anyone going to pay this? Like, I can't imagine. Like, it's just like it was such a mental block. And then, like, the second that we sent the open cart email for that product, I was just thinking, like, no one's going to buy this. This is ridiculous. And then, like, 10 minutes later, 100 sales later, you're just like, why didn't I?
That happens every time. You can launch anything and you're going to have that like moment of, wow, no one is ever going to buy this. There are still zero people, like, like the first 30 seconds, wow, there's zero people buying this. And then the first one comes in and you realize everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think like that was a huge lesson for me, is like charging more premium, actually like walking that walk and charging a premium price. And I waited far too long to like embrace that and realize that there was a value in that, but not even just the course content, but that like really, this isn't just a marketing thing to say, but really when people invest in themselves, they get things done. When people invest $20 in a course, they never look at it. If people invest $1,000, then they're like, I'm going to watch every single video and I'm going to make this count.
And I mean, that's the challenge with online courses, is no one watches courses that are like free or cheap or whatever. Very few people do. So if you want them to engage with it, all our data shows they report higher satisfaction levels. They watch more lectures. They're more likely to complete the course. They're more likely to watch, like, all of those things are positively correlated with the price that you charge for your course. So you're doing your students a service very often by charging more money, aside from the fact that it makes the business more sustainable for you, which makes you more likely to invest in their success as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it allows us to like invest in, hiring people that will just make their experience better. Whereas like if it was $100 course, like we couldn't, we couldn't put the time or energy into them that we do because it's a significant investment. I mean, it's like, that's really cool to hear it backed up by the actual data.
Yep.
What else can you back up with data for us?
Everything.
That's a fun game.
So at least the data we've been looking at is, like average price points across, I don't know if it's because of the education is getting better, but average price points across the platform are trending upwards, which is really interesting to see. What else can I tell you with data? Refund rates for most courses is about the 2 to 3% mark.
That's very low.
Chargeback rates are generally 0.15%. It's also much lower, but we also monitor that. If your chargeback rate is much higher or you're doing something sketch, you're done.
Right.
Since at this point we process payments for a lot of people, and that's risk that that's risk that we'd be taking on. Overall, course completion rates are flat. Like people are not, obviously there's some courses that tend to do better, but whenever people look at what percentage of all courses on Teachable are watched, I'm always like, wow, that's a low number, but it's higher than Udemy, higher than Coursera. Like it's just where the entire industry is we haven't figured out what really makes people watch everything just as a whole, or tracking people watching 100% of the course is the wrong metric to think about, because a lot of people are not interested in watching 100%. They will still get value just clicking around and watching the bits they want.
That's interesting. We actually have a lot of students who will pull off like a $20,000 first launch, and they'll be like, I only watched the first 2 modules and I just went off of that and I did the minimum, and they still had amazing results, but it's not because they completed all the videos. They're like, oh, I'll go back and watch those now, but at the time it was overwhelming. And I think that's really interesting. What are some things that you think people can, or that you guys are going to start doing, or that you think like we can start doing as course creators to help people actually complete it? I mean, obviously some people are just not going to.
I think one thing is we need to think carefully. I think it's dangerous to think of completion as a success metric, right? I think you need to think of the success metric as what the transformation in your course is. Like I think it's better even if your completion rate is 5%, but 100% of people are having a successful launch after taking your course. I think it's better to find your success metric. And the second thing is, what I would start doing is have, whether it's an NPS survey or something, going out in an automated fashion. And it can be maybe at different points, like right after launch, 30 days after, and 90 days after or something, and tracking that with time and seeing, what it is that actually makes people successful. Because I think that's going to be the next big movement, is like, what can we do to make people going through our programs more successful? Because they're going to be your biggest fans. They're going to be the ones, even right now, I'm sure those are the ones like, shouting your name out from rooftops, saying Mariah is awesome. So what can we do to get more people to that outcome?
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, because one of the big shifts in our business is like, once, now that we have plenty of revenue and, and we don't have to worry about us making income to like keep the business going, our goals are not like necessarily all focused on like, when are we going to get new students in? Like, how are we going to increase revenue? It's like your focus goes from like making money and getting an income to like, how can I get them more success? Or like, how can I support them better? Or like, it's having that revenue, healthy revenue, kind of allows you to shift your focus to like, well, how are we going to get more people to complete the course? Or how can we get people to launch? We don't want people to launch in a 9-month time frame. We want people to launch in a 3-month time frame. How can we, get them going a little faster?
Yeah, I love your thoughts on, I've heard people say like making it more of a game, like the gamification of going through a course. Like what are your thoughts on that?
So,
do you agree with that?
I go back and forth on it. Will it work? Yeah, I don't know. It feels a little gimmicky to me. Like you're making
that's
people.
My hesitation.
You're making people do it not for the right reasons. Almost. Maybe that doesn't matter, but it's two things, right? So one of the things is, this is getting into traditional education versus the kind of courses we sell. Is I think traditional education needs it more, because if someone's taking a course that can help them, build financial freedom, build a life of their own, they already have a pretty strong level of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
A lot of times gamification is useful when I have to take a philosophy course, but I don't see how this helps my life. I don't really have any intrinsic motivation of understanding how taking this course, doing well in this course, correlates with success or correlates with the outcome I want. So I think gamification is more useful, on the like for courses that don't have that kind of intrinsic purpose. At the same time, there's some elements of it. I mean, whether it's as simple as, progress bars or like completion mechanics, it is useful to have, and to have, some kind of incentive for the action you want to desire. But again, I think what it comes back to, what is the action you want to promote? If you want to promote completion of a course, or do you want to promote launching a course? And accordingly, like, you could run a different campaign. You could be like, I will send you, I don't know, a t-shirt or something not very expensive out of the price of the course do you want to give that for someone who completes the course, or do you want to give that to someone when they launch their first course? I would urge you to do the latter.
Regardless of whether they watched all the videos.
Yeah, I would urge you to do the latter. And even if we are adding some kind of gamification, to do it predicated on the outcome we want rather than watching videos.
I like that. That's such a good reminder, I think, of the goal of your course. And I think that just having this whole conversation on what are success metrics, like, I think that's something that we, Mariah, like, we track a lot of data, but like tracking that in a more tangible sense of like asking, like figuring out how many students did or didn't launch and how long it took. And like, I know we ask that, but actually considering that, like, the success.
And I'll let you know how it goes. I mean, we're going to try something similar where a lot of people in our onboarding don't get to a course launch. I don't know what we're going to give away. Maybe it's a bottle of champagne or a t-shirt or something where it's not that expensive. But as soon as people launch their thing, we'll have a Zapier webhook set up somewhere. It'll automate getting them something. And we're going to try incentivizing that and see
I like that. We should do that in our next we should do that in our next launch. Like,
that's a really good point. And I think, like,
make a note.
That's I mean, that is one of the things we've talked about too, is like, how can we incentivize, like, what sort of thing can they unlock when they actually go to launch? And that kind of can help with like the perfectionism, right? Like, if there's an incentive to like get it out there and launch, especially if we're like, this incentive, expires in 4 months. Because if you don't launch in 4 months, then you're not going to launch in a year, and you might never launch. So giving it some kind of like, we want it done is better than perfect. And I think it can really help with that. And, I've taken courses that had like gamification, and I think the progress trackers are nice. I think like the digital sort of like, oh, you're 97% complete or whatever, makes you want to finish. But with actual like gamification, I just was like, I literally the first lesson, I was just like, I can't, like, this this is so irritating. I have to like do this dumb thing in order to get to the next lesson, and like, I don't have time for this bullshit. So I think there's kind of a fine line between like encouraging people and then actually it being like a barrier to people going.
Or even like taking it. Like we had an experimental vert thing we tried here. We never ended up releasing it, but if you completed a certain area, you'd unlock badges. But it was like you're playing like Pokemon in like the middle of a course. It doesn't really like. No, it's not.
Like, I have shit to do. Like, I don't have time for this. Absolutely. That's really interesting. I really appreciate you kind of digging into that. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but one of the things that is our mission when we're talking about online courses is to encourage people to create courses in their weird niches and to understand that it is not just online marketers making money with online courses. So what are some of, and a lot of our audience already knows, like, my first course was about living in a vintage camper, and then I had a course about tiny houses. So it's obviously that's not about marketing at all, and was still really successful. So what are some of like your favorite weird courses from your Teachable teachers?
Interesting. So obviously, there's the intermediate blacksmithing course recently. We have one of the first courses to get to the consistent 4K a month was Japanese rope bondage, which
that's awesome.
Surprisingly is a thing I never knew about. We have, every time it's these really, really specific courses that are very, very hard to predict. Like recently we had a cake decoration school do really, really well.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in arts, crafts, music. It's every single day I look at it and, I'm just amazed by the breadth of courses on Teachable.
What do you think is something that we can do to encourage people to kind of, embrace their small industry and understand that is where a lot of the money is to be made, not necessarily teaching another blogging course or trying to fit it, especially we see people, unfortunately, trying to squeeze what they do into the
bucket. Yeah.
They're like, oh, how can I make this like for online entrepreneurs? Like, it's like, equine therapy for online entrepreneurs. And it's like, you don't have to say that. Like, that's not necessary to be successful.
I think it's going to come with time as you see more and more people being successful in that. Yeah. I think part of the problem also is a lot of course creators hang out with other course creators, and you want to sell to people you hang out with. So it's really, that's really part of the issue. But I think it's just seeing more examples coming up, seeing more, so I think you already had a great blog post highlighting a lot of, weird courses, not even weird, but, interesting courses that are on atypical topics. I think, well, from your perspective, doing more of that kind of stuff, I mean, we should also probably be doing more of that kind of stuff is very, 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 very helpful. And also, just at every opportunity, just repeating, like, your course does not have to be, how to have a 6-figure income from your blog. It can be anything.
The more that we feature those people, the more feedback we get from people being like, I had no idea. Like, we have a student, and he's in our mastermind, who, had a $40,000 first launch teaching classical musicians how to audition for the orchestra.
That's awesome.
And he's a Teachable user as well. And like, when we feature people like that, when we feature them on our blog and on our sales page and stuff like that, it's I am always so surprised by the feedback we get from people being like, I thought that was impossible. This is really inspiring to me. Like, this is the thing that convinced me. And even though, from my perspective, I didn't start out in the marketing niche, so I'm like, I get it. Like, that is where, like, of course that's possible. Whereas 99% of people who are just finding out about online courses are completely in the mindset of like, this is not going to work for something like small and outside of the marketing industry.
Yep, I can re-look at our numbers, but just quickly thinking about it in my mind, I don't think a marketing course has been the top earning course maybe all of 2016 for any given month.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so it's, there in the past what used to happen is marketing courses were the top grossing but didn't sell the most number of units. But now even if you look at the top grossing, they lately haven't been marketing courses. I don't know. We're still thinking of the best strategy there. We're thinking of ways of making some of these insights more open. The challenge obviously is you'd want the course creators as well to opt into making this information open. But we're working through initiatives of creating some kind of transparency through metrics for people that opt into them. So it's never going to
be really cool. Like a monthly report of and it could just be industries. Like, it wouldn't have to be who or like what the topic is, but like, how many people were earning what amount. I don't know. I think that stuff is fascinating.
We're going back and forth whether we should do it amount-based or do it almost Apple App Store ranking style, where if you've opted in at any given point, you can see the top free courses, top paid courses, and top grossing courses without necessarily putting dollar amounts to it.
Yeah.
Or the other alternative is, some kind of a journal, maybe anonymized if this course made X dollars in this vertical or whatever. So
do you have, in terms of just like, not necessarily like a leaderboard like that, which is a really cool idea, but in terms of just publishing like data, do people need to opt in if it's completely anonymous? If you were just
it'd be fine if we talk about, if we just talk about, okay, there've been 3.5 million in sales this month, blah, blah, I think that's fine. But as soon as it's something that's even the slightest bit identifiable, we would always ask for permission.
Interesting. Yeah. It would be so cool to see, like, even with the pricing stuff, like you said, like, 50% of the courses now are more than $1,000.
Yeah,
or like 20% of the courses are less than $100, and like not something that would identify people, but just any type of like.
I think that's fine.
That's so cool. It gives people so much confidence to price premium because they're like, I think, everyone, without seeing the data, they're just going to doubt themselves.
Yep. We're actually we're building out our data team for that reason too. Because at this point we recently crossed the 2 million student threshold.
Whoa.
We've paid out $25 million. Like there's like real numbers now where the insights are also very real.
Yeah. That is really exciting.
Yeah.
What are you struggling with right now, either with Teachable or with running your company and your business? Like, what's something that you're personally struggling with? The
hardest thing right now for me is, like, in the past, the external stuff when you're starting a company is harder, right? How do you get customers? For us, we raise money. How do you raise money? How do you keep the business growing?
Yeah.
Right now we're at this interesting point, and I think it's because you were approaching the 30-ish person size where every single system process, communication style that worked before suddenly stopped working. I think we hit like 25, 26 people. Everything just got so much harder. The internal shit's really, really hard right now. We're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how do we structure our teams. Like, we now need an org chart. Like, we never had an org chart. We need to have, like, everyone needs to know who they're reporting. It's all this corporate stuff that we're trying to, like, we have to add a little bit of it because having none of it is like the Wild West.
Yeah.
And adding too much is totally painful. So right now, my biggest struggle, challenge, whatever, is all the internal operations side of things. Like things that didn't matter before. Like now we need an HR person. At some point we need an HR team. Like all of that stuff is so much. I like it. It feels harder than like growing revenue and like finding customers and stuff.
That's so interesting. I think like a lot of, we don't have 30 employees, but like we get to that point too where it's like the struggle is no longer like making a lot of money. The struggle is like, how do you structure your team? How do you communicate with that many people? How do you get things done? Like, how do you not just feel like you're just like not doing anything and just answering to other people all day? Like so for that, do you feel like it's a matter of like hiring on an operations person, or are you going to like take a course on, or some sort of... I'm not an organized person. You're not going to do it.
I'm too disorganized. I can't do it. So it's a combination of things. It's like one, we've hired an operations manager, but we're also looking for senior operational leadership. The biggest lesson I've learned is for a lot of these problems, if you can find someone that solved it before, and ideally someone that solved it before, but is a little bit, but maybe they did it for the first time before, so there's so much shit they got wrong that they want to kind of a fresh start to be like, oh my God, if only I could redo this one more time. Versus, because there's also people that have done it like 6 times before and they're going to be bored of doing it the 7th time. So in an ideal world, I want to find someone that's, solved as many of these problems, maybe at most twice before. They're still hungry. They want to redo things their way. And wherever possible, finding these people is really important. The second thing is, if not, giving ownership to someone internally to step up and do it and, do that role.
Yeah. Ooh, I really like that. Like finding someone who has done it once before, but not more than that, because then they're kind of like, whatever. I just know this like the back of my hand, but they're still like innovating in that second.
The perfect thing is people that like just are like, oh my God, I did so much stupid shit the last time I solved this problem. I can't wait to do it the right way this time.
That's awesome. Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that as well. Yeah. So what do you think is going to be the next sort of big trend in online courses? And, what kind of predictions do you have for things coming in the next few years that we should be aware of? What should I be anxious about?
Yeah. So, the one thing, we're anxious as hell about is I think as like people, as a civilization, online courses are going to be more than mostly recorded videos. I don't know what they're going to be, but right now, whenever there's any new medium, the way online courses are a new medium, you basically take old media, in this case, videos and whatever, we put it in a new medium and, we think that's it, but then some innovation will come along the lines that kind of changes everything. So what we're trying to do is, be flexible, move fast, but as a platform, but like truly be a platform where we're just not allowing people to embed video, but allowing them to do whatever the hell they want to call a course, right? Because ultimately what is a course? It's basically you're dispelling information. We have information in our brain. We're not selling a physical good. We're selling knowledge. We're selling know-how. We can call it an online course. Honestly, the lines between certain kinds of books, courses, even in-person, it's a blurry line. We're basically just, teaching people how to do something.
It's really hard to impress to people that an online course is not a collection of videos and PDFs. It is not like, that is actually not what it is, because so many people are like, okay, what constitutes an online course? How many videos and workbooks does that equal? And I'm like, that is not what it is at all. It's like you said, it could be that you're every Tuesday night you live stream a lecture. It could be that you have no videos. Could be, obviously going to become, VR very soon. And like all, it's not like an easy thing to be like, oh, this is what constitutes a course.
The other thing that's really interesting is at a certain point, and this again might be, a year, 3 years, 5 years out, whatever. Right now, we're starting to see courses that are like legitimately making $1 million. We recently had a course that just for that one course in payments collected hit over $1 million first time. So we had courses, with payment plans, whatever, worth $1 million. This course is collected over $1 million just in our platform. They sold it externally too. And it's a matter of time before there's a $5 million course. At a certain point, there might be a $10 million course. And what's interesting to think about is at some point, someone's going to say, wow, I wonder what would happen if I spent $500,000 to produce a course, because it can, like, I think the stakes and the scales will just get higher and higher. Almost like right now it's, you know, if you look at the gaming industry, it started off with indie games, and before you knew it, the games we produced with $100 million budgets. I'm not saying that's necessarily the
like
scale,
a blockbuster movie or something.
What's interesting is no matter, even at that point, there will always be a market, again, because what we're selling, and this is interesting, again, we don't have perfect data on this because it's hard. We don't have measurable data on like production quality and so forth, but there's enough anecdotal evidence from people whose courses are not professionally put together and they still make a lot more money than people whose courses are professionally put together, that high budgets will not necessarily mean you can't compete, because the knowledge you have is so unique.
Yeah.
But I do think for certain topics, like I don't know whether it's like a calculus 101 course or whatever, someone out there will start investing a lot of money in producing them. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens and how that changes the industry.
That is really cool. That is awesome and really exciting to think about. And I think it's like you said, it doesn't mean that you can't compete. I mean, I know even from our experience, people are always shocked at how little, you know, and we haven't done $1 million in cash in a day in one launch, but our course has, you know, our main course has earned more than $1 million. And it's like people are always shocked at how little we spent to get there. And I think it's interesting.
Yeah, you still don't do ads, right?
Yeah, we don't, we've never done ads. We didn't I didn't hire, a lot of people are like, oh, I spent $10,000 on my sales video, or I spent $20,000 on the sales page. We've had students spend $20,000 on a sales page, and we see again and again that does not equal success. That does not mean that you are guaranteed to make that back. And the high sort of production expense doesn't always pan out, but I think it's really interesting to think, like you said, like there's going to be people who are like, well, this is going to make $2 million and spend $500,000 producing this.
And it's interesting though, because that doesn't help that much, because your unique narrative is often what sells, is like the narrative you have as a teacher versus this kind of brand that spent all this money and so forth. Like this is becoming a real form of media, right? This is becoming a real form of media, except it actually makes much more money per consumption or whatever than any other form of media. It's like already the most profitable form of media. So I think celebrities will come in, but their courses, at least in the short term, are likely not going to be great until they take the form factor seriously. Right now you have masterclass and stuff recording these kind of very quick courses that are put together. Generally, you get 2 days on a celebrities, and we've had these conversations, we know how these work. Generally, they want you to do 2 days, a 2-day shoot, 3-day shoot or something, but you do all of the work for them. So celebrity is not even like putting in any of the work to create the content. You're creating the content, they're just sitting in front of the camera and recording it. So until they actually decide to take the format as seriously, and it's starting to happen. I mean, I know Carrie Ann Moss, student of yours, she's starting to take this pretty seriously. Seth Godin did the all-time BA, but like actually took it seriously. When you do have celebrities taking this seriously, trying to identify serving their audience, finding their pain point. If they follow the process we're recommending, the process you're teaching, that's when they'll really start competing. Right now, celebrities are doing it, but they're doing it all wrong. Where it's like, oh, let's do a quick 2-day shoot and use my brand name to sell a bunch of $80 courses.
They maybe don't realize that like they could make, what they could make making a movie. If they did it right, they could legitimately make, just as much, but it's like they haven't seen it done for themselves yet. So they're like,
Same with authors. Every author now wants to do a course, but they're thinking about doing a course as a companion to the book.
Yes.
When it makes like no sense to do that, unless your goal for a book is whatever New York Times bestseller or something, in which case it makes sense. But I think that the script is slowly going to start switching, where you do a book and a course for different reasons. If you're actually making money, I mean, the course is the product.
I mean, that's the thing is like I turned down book deals because I knew I would make more with a course on my own. Like it was like they were it's like they could offer you $100,000 and you'd be like, this is going to make millions of dollars in the next couple of years. I'm not gonna give you that IP for for that much. So
that's happening a lot more. And we've had authors do a companion course, but very often the course is done in order to sell more copies of the book, and that just seems like a terrible, like it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I feel like the book should be like the like teaser almost. Like you get some great info and you want to go more in depth, so you buy the course.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, like a lot of people have done like, buy a book and get a course free. You're literally better off selling the entire course and yourself buying 100 copies of the book for every course you sell or whatever. Like it's just not, and then you can even give away the book for free. Like a book is a rounding error.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to wrap this up.
Sweet.
What are some of the projects that Teachable and you are working on in the next couple of months? Like, what are some things we should look out for that you're going to be unveiling for us?
Sweet. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening now. We're working on a mobile app, which I'm pretty excited about.
Ooh.
We're working out the details here, but we're thinking of rolling out ways to help people promote each other in a more systematic way. And it's things we want to tread very, very carefully from, because we never want to be a marketplace, never want to do that. But if there's people that want to be able to promote each other, how do we make it as seamless for them as possible, where they don't have to actually figure out paying each other out? What can we do to route payments in a better way? So we're starting to think.
That.
Yeah, so we're starting to think a lot about.
Vote for that one.
Those kinds of questions. The third thing we're working on is trying to always see what we can do better in our payment processing infrastructure. So getting instant pay. We have about almost 2/3 of people on instant payouts. What can we do to get more people on instant payouts? We're also at a point now where we have enough buying power that we might be able to negotiate lower credit card rates for people across the board, right? Most people right now pay 2.9% plus 30 cents. There's a chance we can slowly move that even lower and lower, just because we have so many transactions going through us.
Yeah.
So it's really, how do we take all these economies of scale we've created and help more people use them?
That's awesome. I mean, I love that whole philosophy of we have the buying power and we can help, the little guy who's just starting out lower their processing payment. And that makes a big deal when you're starting out and that's $100 a month that you're paying out.
Yep. So that's overall the big trend is look, we have some kind of scale now. How can we use the collective power of everyone to make things better on an individual level?
I love that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for all the things that you do
Yeah.
for us.
Don't worry about it.
That's awesome. So tell us where our listeners can find you and find out more about Teachable. We are going to give you guys a chance to get a free month of Teachable, so we'll let you know where you can get that. But where can we find out more about you and your company?
Yep. So the company is at teachable.com. The easiest way of finding me, and the company is probably on Twitter. We're Teachable on Twitter. We used to be Teachable HQ. We finally got them. We had got a trademark and we got the blue check mark, and we told them we got the account and all that good stuff. So we're Teachable on Twitter. I'm Ankur Nagpal, my full name. So for people listening, we've put together a free month of Teachable, a couple of other bonuses at teachable.com/thefemshow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that for our listeners. Really appreciate
no worries.
it.
Thank you.
This has been a blast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and we will talk to you soon. Of course, we are going to be doing summits together and some other cool things coming up, and we're always doing webinars and doing all sorts of things together, so everyone keep an eye out.
Yep. Looking forward.
Thanks, Ankur.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Go to thefemshow.com/9 for the show notes to this episode and to find all of the links to the resources that we mentioned in this episode, including the link to one free month of Teachable, so you don't want to miss that.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. It might seem small, but reviews make a really big impact, and they help us get more amazing guests for you every single week for free. So don't forget to go to thefemshow.com if you have a question for us to answer, and submit your question there.
And if you want to discuss this episode with us and the entire community of awesome, ambitious entrepreneurs, make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.